Ever found yourself struggling to create a podcast episode outline? The all too familiar feeling of staring at a blank page, knowing you have a fantastic idea for a podcast episode, but unsure of how to structure it into a cohesive and engaging narrative. It's a struggle many creators face. A podcast episode outline is not just a roadmap for your content, but it's also a blueprint for success. It's the skeleton that holds the meat of your episode together, the guiding star that leads you through the vast expanses of your topic. It's the key to a well-structured, engaging podcast that listeners can't get enough of. But creating that outline, now that's where the real challenge lies. It's like trying to put together a puzzle where the pieces are your thoughts, ideas, and information about the topic. And these pieces, well, they don't always fit together as nicely as we'd like them to. You might find yourself wrestling with how to segment your topic into bite-sized, digestible parts. Or perhaps you're struggling with how to order your content in a way that makes sense and flows naturally. Maybe you're unsure of how to incorporate storytelling techniques to keep your listeners hooked from start to finish. And let's not forget about those moments when you're hit with a wave of self-doubt. Thoughts like, is this outline good enough? Or will my listeners find this interesting? Can creep in, making the process even more daunting. But here's the thing. Just as every successful podcast episode starts with a well-crafted outline, every great outline starts with a first draft. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be a starting point, a foundation that you can build upon. So, take a deep breath, grab your favorite pen or open up your preferred digital tool, and remember, you've got this. Creating a podcast episode outline may be a challenge, but it's a challenge you're more than capable of overcoming. Today, we'll help you conquer this challenge with a simple, step-by-step guide. The first step in creating an engaging podcast episode outline is understanding your audience and topic. Now picture this. You're crafting a masterpiece of a dish, but you've got no clue about who you're cooking for. It could be a vegan, a meat lover, someone allergic to peanuts, or even a fussy toddler. You see, without knowing your audience, your efforts could potentially go to waste. The same principle applies when creating a podcast episode outline. So how do you identify your target audience? Start by asking yourself, who would be interested in the content you're planning to provide? Are they beginners or experts in the field? What age group do they belong to? What are their hobbies, interests, or professions? The answers to these questions form the blueprint of your target audience. Once you've got a clear picture of your audience, it's time to understand their interests. This is where market research steps in. Use platforms like social media, online forums, or surveys to gauge their preferences, pain points, and questions. This not only helps you align your content with their interests, but also fosters a deeper connection with your listeners. Next up is choosing a topic. Now, this might seem like a daunting task, but fret not. Align your topic with your audience's interests and your area of expertise. Remember, your topic should be something you are passionate about, because passion is infectious. If you're excited about the content, it's likely that your audience will be too. Also, consider the longevity of your topic. It's better to choose a topic that can be broken down into several subtopics, ensuring you have enough material for several episodes. This way, your listeners can look forward to a series of episodes, keeping them engaged and coming back for more. To sum it all up, understanding your audience and selecting a topic that resonates with them is like laying the first brick in the construction of a building. It sets the tone for everything that follows. Knowing your audience and topic is the foundation of a great podcast episode outline. Once you've identified your topic, the next step is to break it down into smaller, manageable subtopics. Imagine you're building a house. You wouldn't just pile all the bricks, cement, and wood in one spot and start working, would you? No, you'd organize your materials, laying them out in a way that makes sense for the construction process. The same principle applies when creating a podcast episode outline. You've got your main topic, which is like your pile of building materials. Now you need to sort those materials into categories, or, in this case, subtopics. Let's use an example. Suppose your main topic is the history of coffee. That's a broad subject, but when you start breaking it down into subtopics, you could have segments like the origins of coffee, coffee in the modern world, the science of coffee, and the cultural impact of coffee. Each subtopic is a piece of the larger picture, but it's also a standalone segment that can be explored in depth. Segmenting your topic has several advantages. First, it helps you organize your thoughts and ideas. It's much easier to tackle a big topic when you've divided it into smaller parts. Second, it provides a clear roadmap for your episode. Each subtopic becomes a stepping stone, leading your listeners through the story you're telling. But perhaps most importantly, segmenting helps your listeners follow along. Remember, not everyone will be as familiar with your topic as you are. By breaking it down into subtopics, you're making your content more accessible. You're making it easier for your listeners to understand and remember the information you're sharing. In conclusion, think of your podcast episode as a journey. Your main topic is the destination, but the subtopics are the scenic stops along the way. They provide depth, detail, and a chance for your listeners to explore different aspects of the main topic. Segmenting your topic not only makes your podcast more organized, but also easier to follow for your listeners. Now that you've got your subtopics, it's time to structure your content. Structuring your podcast content is like designing a roadmap for your listeners. It's about ensuring that your audience can follow along with ease, absorbing and enjoying your content without getting lost. One way to structure your podcast is through chronological order. This is particularly useful when discussing historical events or personal experiences. It's like taking your listeners on a journey, starting from point A and ending at point B. This linear path keeps your audience engaged as they anticipate what happens next. Alternatively, you might consider a problem-solution format. This is perfect for addressing specific issues or challenges in your podcast. Start by presenting the problem to your audience, then gradually lead them towards the solution. This structure creates suspense and intrigue as your listeners eagerly await the resolution. Another approach is the thematic structure, ideal for podcasts covering broad topics. Instead of focusing on a single narrative, you break your content down into themes or categories. Each episode or segment can explore a different theme, providing variety and depth to your content. Regardless of the structure you choose, remember to keep your audience's perspective in mind. Your structure should enhance listener engagement, not detract from it. Make sure your content flows smoothly from one point to the next, maintaining a consistent pace and tone throughout. Also, don't be afraid to mix things up. You can use different structures for different episodes, or even within a single episode. For instance, you might start with a thematic approach, then switch to a problem-solution format for a deeper dive into a specific theme. Remember, your podcast structure isn't set in stone. It's a tool to help you create engaging, digestible content for your listeners. Don't hesitate to experiment and find the structure that works best for your podcast. In conclusion, a well-structured podcast outline isn't just about organization. It's about creating a cohesive, engaging narrative that draws your listeners in and keeps them coming back for more. A structured podcast outline ensures a cohesive and engaging narrative for your listeners. With your structured outline in hand, the next step is to bring it to life with engaging storytelling techniques. You see, storytelling is not just for bedtime tales or blockbuster movies. It's a powerful tool that can make your podcast episodes more engaging, more memorable, and yes, more shareable. So how do you weave storytelling into your podcast? Let's dive in. Firstly, there's suspense, a classic storytelling technique. Keeping your listeners on the edge of their seats, hanging on to your every word, is a surefire way to make your podcast unforgettable. You could introduce a question at the start of your episode and promise to answer it by the end, or you could reveal information piece by piece, building up to a dramatic conclusion. Then, there's humor. A good laugh can make any situation, even a dreary commute or a tedious workout, a little bit brighter. While humor might not be appropriate for all topics, when used appropriately, it can make your content more relatable and enjoyable. Remember though, humor is subjective. So what's funny to you might not be funny to everyone. Personal anecdotes are another storytelling gem. Sharing your own experiences can build a connection with your audience, making them feel like they're not just listeners, but friends. It adds a personal touch to your podcast, making it unique and authentic. Lastly, let's talk about vivid descriptions. Painting a picture with your words can transport your listeners to a different place or time, immersing them in your story. Detailed descriptions can make your content more engaging and memorable, whether you're describing a historical event, a scientific concept, or a personal experience. To wrap up, remember that storytelling is not about lying or making things up. It's about presenting your content in a way that resonates with your listeners, that makes them feel something. It's about turning facts and information into a narrative that your audience can relate to and remember. Effective storytelling can turn a good podcast into a great one. So go on, give these storytelling techniques a whirl and watch your podcast come to life. Creating a podcast episode outline may seem daunting, but with these steps, it becomes a manageable and even enjoyable task. We started off by recognizing the challenges podcast creators often face when creating an episode outline. It can feel like a mountain to climb, with a summit that's out of sight. But as we journeyed together through the process, we've discovered that it's not as intimidating as it first appears. We've learned that understanding your audience and your topic is the first crucial step. It's about knowing who's listening and what they want to hear. It's about immersing yourself in your subject matter and becoming an expert in it so you can share your knowledge with confidence and authority. Segmenting your topic into subtopics was our next step. This helps to break down that mountain into more manageable chunks. Each segment becomes a stepping stone, leading your listeners on a journey of discovery. It allows you to organize your thoughts and deliver your content in a way that's easy for your audience to digest. Structuring your content is the equivalent of drawing a map for your journey. It's your guide, keeping you on track and ensuring you cover all the important points. It helps you maintain a logical flow, making it easier for your listeners to follow along and understand your message. And finally, we delved into the art of storytelling. We've seen how engaging narratives can draw listeners in, making your podcast not just informative, but also entertaining. It's about painting a picture with words, taking your listeners on an emotional journey, and making your content memorable. So there you have it. From understanding your audience and topic, to segmenting your topic, structuring your content, and engaging with storytelling techniques, we've covered the key steps to creating a compelling podcast episode outline. Remember, a well-planned podcast episode outline sets the stage for a successful and engaging podcast. Happy podcasting.